for Ian, for Peter? No questions. Yes, sir, Congressman.
Yeah, what do you see as the most promising opportunity for Scottish businesses coming to America? We've had inquiries the last 2 years, especially since the height of COVID, about businesses. When looking at, I know we chatted some about it, Ian and I have. But we're excited about welcoming, those businesses that want to expand to America, that want to sell their products. We know a lot of that can be done virtually. But for those who may be interested or would, can be enticed with the things we try to do, like tax incentives and location citing and those kinds of things. I don't know if you have a sense for particular Scottish business or industries that are looking more seriously at coming to America, and if so, the kinds of things that entice them that we can truly welcome them with open arms.
Yeah. So in terms of the challenges that I think that this is not necessarily just a Scottish thing, but it's UK-wide, is general market intelligence. Intelligence is some of the biggest challenges that our members face trying to figure out where to invest in the US. So even an understanding of where state and local governments have authority over certain tax procedures or where certain regulations may lie at the federal and state level. The actual general knowledge, especially when you're getting in kind of a smaller company that's looking to export to the US for the first time, that level of understanding is very low. So it really is, and we've gone to state governments and municipalities on this and said, the biggest thing that you can offer our members is intelligence and the ability for them to understand, we've picked out a certain market, can you walk us through this process? It's not necessarily cost, although that is obviously, incentives where they can come are very, very helpful, but it's really more certainty and understanding. In terms of specific industries, I think, I mentioned a little bit of this kind of on the energy debate. There's a tremendous amount of expertise in Scotland, but also, again, countrywide on construction services. And when it comes to kind of, I don't know if this is the right word, but like greenifying, I guess, infrastructure and construction, there's a tremendous amount of expertise in advanced engineering from kind of architecture firms, design firms, in terms of how to make buildings more eco-friendly, more kind of, less heavy in terms of the emissions they put out. The UK is really a leader here, and Scotland plays a big role there too. And I think that once local developers in the US figure that out, that they can go to a specific part of the world for that level of expertise, there's going to be a tremendous amount of opportunity.
Yeah, that was such a good answer. Thank you. I think that specific sectors that I think are continue to grow. Glasgow, as you know, has this rich, deep tradition of shipbuilding on the Clyde, on the River Clyde, and that was such a huge industry for decades, hundreds of years, in fact. It has dissipated. Of course, ships are still being built on the Clyde and employing good people, engineers, but I like to say there are ships of other kinds that potentially the Scottish engineering and technical know-how, and that relates to space. So space, at the time those ships were being built, that was the waters was space. The idea of going up to space, but the waters before individuals to transport goods, to explore, to understand, were the waters and the oceans before us. Scotland, in terms of its ability to contribute to the discussion on space technology, is huge. Yeah. Not just to enhance North Carolina and other areas that are interested in that, but to provide literally a launch pad in Scotland. In Europe, the options are quite limited in terms of where you launch from. You have to go all the way down into Kazakhstan or those types of areas. European Space Agency is one of the most innovative. We hear so much about NASA, but European Space Agency is doing remarkable work. UK space industry is enormous. Scotland it has now potentially 4 launch sites across Scotland. That's exciting, that's attractive to large companies, certainly in this area, in the Washington, D.C. area. If they know that Scotland is not just a land of kilts and tartan and castles, as important as that is, it's a modern market of opportunity, and space fills, I think, some of the void, Mike, related to the ghosts of the past related to the Clyde and the ships that were built there. It's a ship of a different kind.
Just one really quick note on that. I mean, fantastic point. A fifth of all UK jobs in the space sector are in Scotland. So it's a tremendous opportunity at the moment. Yeah.
Andrew.
Just to bring it back down to earth for a second. Question mainly for Peter. I mean, I can remember, and you probably remember, when Britain actually joined the EU. Let us forget Brexit for a moment. And sausages were suddenly banned. You couldn't sell traditional British sausages. It had a huge impact on the food businesses. So do you, as a company, try to lobby groups like the FDA to try to make sure that they understand where you're coming from? Or if not, do you use the services of the Scottish government here or UKTI to go and do that sort of work for you, and are they helpful?
To answer your question, really, I mentioned sausages. Is the mic on?
I'm not sure. I wasn't sure
I
if it
don't
was
know
on.
that yours is on.
But you can
Okay,
have
let's
this
just
one.
use that one then. I vaguely remember what you're saying, the problem with the EU there. There were several problems, things like cheese produced on Scottish farms and all that stuff. But when I mentioned sausages, I mean, these are made to a British recipe by an American company, so I don't have a problem there. I don't really need to I don't need to have any communication with FDA because everything that we're bringing in is okay. Now there is one product which is kind of an interesting story: raspberry jam. Okay, now that we didn't know, but the manufacturers got some notification from the FDA said you can't bring Scottish raspberry jam into the US because the Scottish raspberry growers use an insecticide that is banned over here. So we had like 12 cases of raspberry jam that they had shipped to us. Then they took, the manufacturer said, look, you have to put those aside and an FDA officer will come and visit you. And she did. And she witnessed us taking a hammer, smashing every single jar, you know, and then throw them in a dumpster. You know, that doesn't happen very often, to be honest. I don't really, you know, I've got contact at FDA, but, you know, they've been pretty good with us. I mean, we're importing through Wilmington, North Carolina, and I have to say that our record of importation has been absolutely marvelous. You know, we're very particular about having the right dockets and everything. Sometimes they'll take a container and they'll do an X-ray on it. They haven't done that for years, but I'm thinking we're a known entity with the FDA, the USDA, and there. So it's a wonderful facility for us because it's only 2.5 hours. The container gets dried up from there to Charlotte. I was going to say something, not answer to your question, regarding marketing of products. We have to try and encourage more our Scottish companies. Say, look, America's a huge market. You need to step up and help with the marketing. And I'm glad to say that 2 or 3 of the companies will do that. But one of our biggest suppliers, he's as tight-fisted as they come, and he won't put any money down on the table. We still bring his product in, but that's all right, you know.
Yeah,
I think Ian had a comment.
coming to the end. So thank you for bringing it back to earth. Let me bring it back to Main Street and the High Street. As I said in my remarks, so much of an economy based on those comments and what we've heard is the small business sector. The small business, medium sector is a sector obviously important here in the Virginia area, in Washington, D.C., and America, but in Scotland it is such the heart of the economy. And I really want to emphasize that. These are individuals, so many of them are women-led businesses. That's important to understand. They are minority-led businesses. That's important to understand. These are individuals that are really driving the economy of Scotland. We need to be mindful of them. And so we in the United States, yes, there are the big deals, that happen and should happen, discussion. But we need to be mindful of these small business owners in Scotland and in the United States. That's where the relationships occur. And that's where our decision makers, political leaders need to focus, I believe. And that's where the diaspora is very motivated and engaged. So that would be my last point.
But you won't get UKTI interested in small businesses in general, right?
Well, no,
Are they beginning to be?
Oh, absolutely. I think people would understand that basic point. Trade is at that level. It's such an important level. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
full disclosure, our friend Andrew Van Rossel, aside from all the heritage hats he wears, is also honorary British Consul General in San Antonio.
Yeah.
So he has an interest in trade issues. And I hope that you, both of you gentlemen, have a chance to talk to him before he takes off for New York, and you as well,
See you
Congressman.
there.
He's a very good contact of ours. He advises on many issues, but some of them are trade-related, not heritage-related. So, anybody else? Last question of the day. And then I have a few housekeeping announcements, and then we're going to head downstairs. Going once? Anybody up here?
No, thank you.
I want to thank you all,
Thank you.
Ian, John, and Peter, for different perspectives on, I think, a big elephant in the room issue right now, trade policy and trade practices and business practices and business opportunities, all of that.